want to talk to Lauren here on these Airbnb properties. A lot of people buy, again, doing your due diligence, back to the common theme of, asking questions, doing due diligence, making sure you're making an informed decision. Some people buy properties, they just have the idea of, hey, I'm going to rent this out weekly. They end up finding out the hard way they can't do that.
Yes, absolutely. That seems to be a huge problem these days. That goes back to us understanding, what district or zoning when you're buying or looking to purchase a property. So if you're thinking about using this property as a rental property, you need to know what district you're zoned in. So what I've been noticing in different city council hearings is, for example, if somebody's trying to rent out a property for a month long on Airbnb, what they have is people scouring the internet to look at these ads to see if they're compliant based off of the district that the resident is zoned in. So certain districts, for example, will not allow what we call transient occupancy. And under Florida statute, that would mean we're talking about, hotels, short visits, something less than 1 month. But what happens when you list on Airbnb, you might be trying to follow the rules and only allow a rental for 1 month. But the ad, the way Airbnb works, it doesn't really show it as 1 month. It's the way that code enforcement is looking at this because it's actually based on advertising. So you can be in violation before you even had somebody come rent the property.
Just from the advertisement.
Just the advertisement. And this is code. And there's a lot of ambiguity in the law because they say transient occupancy has to deal with 1 month. So if you're trying to rent a property, for example, in February 2020, which happens to be a leap year, there's 29 days, right? So now somebody's getting cited for that because somebody happened to scour the internet and say, oh, well, this is less than a month. But it's not, because there's 29 days in February 2020 next year.
Right.
But now you've got a violation.
Wow.
And the issue with it is I implored City Council to ask the people to take a step further. And I'm not talking about Tampa City Council in this example. The person that scours the internet to take a step further to see if it's really the rentals going for an exact month or less instead of penalizing these people. Because what happens is if you violate it once, typically a fine is $250 a day until you've been in compliance. But then if they found you not in compliance, or you've already been found to violate this and it happens again, now you're considered a repeat violator and you're getting fined at $500 a day. And there's not going to be a lot of findings of facts and conclusions that are going to hit you with that. So you're not even have an ability to comply where you typically would when you get your first notice of violation from, city code enforcement or whatnot. So what I applaud City Council where I'm talking about from this week to try to explain to a lot of these residents that are coming and having these huge fines, $18,000, $9,000, and which in a court system we would say this isn't ripe yet. Nothing's happened. The damages haven't occurred. The rental hasn't actually happened.
Right.
But because the code is written as advertising as well, is to document all steps that you put into the different ads, like put at the bottom of your ad, minimum 1 month rental. So it doesn't look like you're renting it per day.
Right.
And then, we can get into a little bit of legislation because it's the Florida statute that's written ambiguously. It does say 1 month. And so people are like, well, when you read this, they're like, well, 1 month, is that 30 days? Is that 31? Is it 29? Is it 28?
Yes.
And they say 1 month, but then it keeps rearing its ugly head where people are getting fined, and it's the way the Airbnb ads run.
Yes.
And something also to consider is when you're advertising on the internet, you have to really understand that if you ask the Airbnb, hey, can you comply? Florida statute says this. They're under no obligation. They don't have they're not under our jurisdiction to have to listen to the rules. It doesn't affect them. I've had court orders that, people say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me. This, even though it says go change this advertisement, but they're not under our jurisdiction. So wherever they're operating out of, they don't have to do that. So the best thing also to do is obviously know, where you're living and what the rules are. And it's actually really easy to find. So if you're living in St. Pete Beach, for example, just type in City of St. Pete Beach. And then on Google, then you'll see a list. You can just click on a link to see all the different code enforcement rules and figure out which area you live in so you can comply. And, what they're really just looking for is a good faith effort. If you didn't realize that, there's so many rules out there. That's why there's attorneys to show that, as soon as you got the notice, you corrected it. First time, it's not going to happen again. But if you have questions, talk to the code enforcement people. They are normal, nice people.
Yeah.
You know, I see a lot of stuff when I finally do get involved from clients that I've seen. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm reading these emails back and forth. You know, this is public record, and it's also going to just fire up the code enforcement officer. So when you go in for that hearing, they're not going to want to work with you and recommend stuff to the city attorney, who's really deciding, should we let these fines go?
Yeah.
Should we reduce them? Are we going to make these liens that attach to the house?
Right.
So, you know, I always say my advice to all clients and everybody is email like it will one day be read out loud at a deposition or on the stand.
Absolutely.
You just never really know, you know, what can be used against you.
Be careful with that.
Just be polite.
Be polite. You're going to get so much more that way.
Absolutely. It's definitely frustrating when you get hit with, you know, fines that you think, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to agree. When I watch it, it's on this stuff, I'm like, woo, glad I don't live here.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the choice you make when you decide to buy. So you need to look into the different area that you're interested in buying.
Yep.
So you understand. So you maybe this isn't the right place for you. Maybe you don't want to live in that area because these rules apply where they wouldn't maybe apply in Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be careful about it, and, you know, and to your point too. So a lot of those companies are based in Silicon Valley or you know out of state, so there's no governing body there. And again, you know, some of these I saw a story online about Dunedin. You know, they fined this guy for, I think it was $100 a day or $500 a day for his grass not being cut instead of, you know, and the guy was out of town attending to a sick relative, his mom was dying, something like that, and it got up to $15,000-$30,000, whatever it was. And they actually threatened foreclosure on the guy's house. And then this group came together and said it's a justice group and said, no, we're going to help fight this because that's ridiculous. Why didn't you hire somebody to cut the grass for less than $500 a day instead of continuing to fine this person? So there's a lot of overreaching by government in a lot of cases, and that pissed a lot of people off.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's what I was saying when I was sitting there, I'm thinking, you know, we just had lightning. I mean, by me, 2 houses got hit by lightning. You can't sit there fining people, and this is not by me, but for, you know, storm damage, they give them a chance to clean it up. I mean, it just seems a little ridiculous. We were talking about cutting grass. You know, in the real court system, you have a duty to mitigate. So they should be cutting the grass then instead of fining $500 a day, and then, you know, give them a bill, an invoice for cutting the grass
for $100 or whatever it would cost to have someone cut that grass. Put them on a bi-weekly, baby. Get them every week, every 2 weeks.
In fact, I would sign up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so some good stuff there. So attorney Lauren Frieder over at FCM Law, fcmlaw.com, real estate, title, all those types of real estate applications, litigation. You actually are one of these attorneys that actually goes to court.
We are in court almost every day. So we take a variety of cases. I got the pleasure of, you know, being in divorce court this week. So
cool.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
I highly recommend people work things out ahead of time in case it goes south. It's not a place you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes me think about property and stuff because then you think about partitions and selling the houses and it gets ugly, you know, so.
It does. Yeah, fcmlaw.com. You got the office over there on Cypress as well, Cypress Boulevard, and right here in Tampa.
Yes, 3226 West Cypress Street.
3226 West Cypress Street. All right, good stuff.